After spending years mastering the most brutal survival game ever made, he finally clears every single stage and gets stabbed by a convenience store cashier while buying cola. Bro really said one last drink and got the bad ending. But instead of dying, he wakes up inside, the exact game he just completed, stuck in the body of a 10-year-old. No save point, no tutorial, and absolutely no customer support. Now he has to survive an apocalypse while pretending he's just some random player. And then he meets a guy claiming to be dopamine addict. Except there's just one tiny problem: he's the real dopamine addict. Footsteps echo through the empty streets. A young boy slips into a convenience store, passing by bizarrely packed shelves of identical unicorn plushies, green utility knives, and neatly arranged ties, even taking a quick photo of the inventory on his phone. He makes his way to the beverage cooler, browsing the rows of drinks before pulling out a bottle of Safe Area Cola. As he brings the drink forward, the clerk asks if he is going with the cola. The boy casually confirms his choice, prompting a dark, unsettling reply from the clerk, who commends him on making an excellent choice. Before the boy can register the strange tone, the clerk suddenly lunges forward with a weapon, unleashing a vicious slash. Struck down instantly, our boy collapses to the floor. As his vision fades into darkness, the last thing he sees is the cold, twisted smile of his attacker reflecting in his eyes. A final, sharp blow cuts through the air, leaving a pool of blood spreading across the cold tiles. But the story actually begins 1 hour earlier. Back in his room, the boy sits in front of his computer, rapidly typing away. He readily identifies himself as a massive dopamine addict. His mind constantly craves stimulation, driving him to obsessively cycle through a vast array of interests. He dives headfirst into everything from idol groups and rock bands to the Premier League and historical epics, before quickly jumping to extreme sports, martial arts, and parkour. He pursued all of these extreme thrills solely to get a dopamine hit. But eventually, even those high adrenaline activities stopped working, leaving him unable to find any excitement in them. Desperate for a new source of stimulation, his hand hesitated over his keyboard before he finally decided to try online games. When he encountered a block, he simply resolved to try again, staring intently at the ruined cityscape on his monitor. Truthfully, games were the one thing he had always wanted to avoid. Playing them constantly reminded him of his mother, who would go completely out of touch, leaving him with dozens of missed calls and desperate messages begging her to answer the phone. But old habits die hard, and an addiction discovered late in life is a terrifying thing. Driven by his search for more intense stimulation, he plunged into the gaming world, eventually mastering all kinds of brutal survival games. Out of all of them, the one that gave him the absolute highest rush was a game called Apocalypse Safe Zone. The game setting begins with a massive meteor impact that plunges the entire Earth into a devastating ice age. Generations pass, and when a relatively warmer interglacial period finally arrives, the surviving remnants of humanity establish safe zones to scrape by. In this harsh world, there are a total of 9 distinct safe zones, each marked by their own unique crest. These territories are divided into the candy, cola, cigarettes, beer, chicken, cocaine, knife, love, and unicorn zones. The boy sighs, realizing his current strategy is not working either. In this game, players can select a starting location from 8 of the 9 safe zones, with the exception of the locked knife zone. Once the choice is made, players begin their journey in that territory in the body of a 10-year-old child. Anyone who manages to survive the brutal early game must spend the next 10 years preparing for the worst. The countdown ends on the day the player turns 20, which triggers the devastating second apocalypse. This 10-year span serves as Phase 1, a crucial period meant entirely for growth and preparation. But the game only truly gets interesting after this point. Looking closely at the screen, the young boy plans his next move, deciding to try removing a specific barrier first this time. Once the second apocalypse begins in earnest, players are forced into a ruthless survival match against hostile survivors from all the other zones. This deadly phase is exactly why choosing the right starting zone is so critical, as it determines the level of stats a player can obtain. To make matters worse, the survivors from the locked knife zone are absolute maniacs. The instant they spot a survivor from a lower difficulty zone, they move in for the kill without hesitation. Because of this constant threat, selecting a starting zone requires extreme caution. Yet, back when our boy first started clearing the safe zones, it was actually these chaotic, deadly elements that kept him entertained. Sipping from his mug, he watched the madness unfold, finding that the game's high difficulty was the only thing keeping him from getting bored. But even his endless hunt for dopamine comes to an end today. The boy pauses at his keyboard, clenching his fist as he finally achieves a massive gaming milestone. The screen flashes with a major announcement. He has cleared all stages of the hidden knife zone, officially completing every single safe zone in the game. Taking off his headphones, he pulls out his phone to prepare a new post. Because he wants as many people as possible to enjoy the game, he regularly posts detailed walkthroughs on the online community board under the username Dopamine Addict. Helping other players has become his own small pleasure. Almost immediately, his phone buzzes with a comment. True to his reputation of being unemployed, a frequent user named Home Protector is the first to respond. Home Protector is completely baffled, commenting that it makes sense why that psychopath den of a zone had such a high difficulty rating, even though it was normally unselectable. Reading further, Home Protector expresses sheer disbelief, questioning what kind of guide tells players to slaughter all of the zone's residents right at the start, especially since those hostile NPCs show no mercy to anyone. The boy looks at his phone, wondering how many comments this single user is going to leave. Another user named Room Corner Hubby chimes in, telling Home Protector to stop wasting time asking questions and just read the guide. While the boy usually deletes hateful comments instantly, he decides to leave this particular debate alone. Soon, a user named T-Bastard asks how he managed to unlock the hidden zone in the first place. The boy replies that it is simple, only requiring players to see the starting endings for all the other zones. Room Corner Hubby snaps back, pointing out that it is only simple for him, but the boy counters by reminding them that he already uploaded detailed walkthroughs for those starting zones as well. Outraged, Room Corner Hubby asks if he honestly thinks normal people could ever follow those crazy guides, calling him a complete psycho. After a brief silence, the boy calmly types back that he is blocking him. Room Corner Hubby flinches in shock, absolutely furious that the guide writer actually went ahead and blocked him. Scrolling through the community board, the boy reads feedback about his walkthrough's extreme difficulty, with players pointing out that asking them to slaughter residents at age 10 makes no sense. Still, others mention they read his guides just for fun, leaving him with the realization that at least some people find his work helpful and entertaining. Regardless of the mixed reviews, he has conquered every single aspect of the game, leaving him to wonder what he should do next now that he has officially graduated from it. Later that night, he walks through the empty streets, feeling his blood dopamine levels rapidly drop. He desperately needs to find a new source of stimulation. Looking around the quiet neighborhood, he spots a convenience store and wonders if it has always been there. He steps inside as the entrance bell dings, only to find himself surrounded by an incredibly bizarre inventory. The shelves are stocked exactly like the game's items, displaying candy, cola, cigarettes, beer, chicken, and even kitchen knives and unicorn plushies. It is the exact setup of a safe zone. He initially wonders if the game is running a promotional collaboration, but quickly dismisses the idea since the game does not even have a Korean version. He concludes it is far more likely that the store owner is just a massive fanatic who ordered the inventory in this exact state. Still, running a business with only these specific items seems completely insane, so he decides to snap a few photos to give the store some free publicity. He quickly uploads the pictures of the unicorn shelves and cigarette displays to his community page. As he does, the cashier suddenly asks if he is going with the cola. Startled, the boy quickly agrees, secretly wondering if the clerk is judging him for taking so many photos of the store when he is only buying a single bottle of cola. But as he looks at the counter, he notices a strange detail. The bottle of safe area cola does not seem to have a barcode. Before he can even process this realization, a sudden, menacing shadow looms as the clerk prepares to strike. Standing inside the quiet convenience store, the boy has no time to react as the shadowy clerk behind him raises a weapon and delivers a lethal strike. With a brutal slice, the clerk mockingly notes that the boy made an excellent choice. His vision instantly fractures, and he collapses as his consciousness fades away. But instead of death, a blinding flash of light pulls him into a completely different world. When the guy opens his eyes, he is stunned to find himself dressed in a crisp white and black uniform. He looks down at his new attire in complete disbelief, screaming in sheer shock at his new reality. He quickly realizes that a brand new, terrifying dopamine rush has been granted to him. He has transmigrated directly into the absolute nightmare of a game he just finished clearing, Apocalypse Safe Zone. To make matters even more chaotic, he is not alone. Standing right beside him is a frantic blonde-haired kid wearing the same uniform, screaming and clutching his head in panic, an apparently foul-mouthed partner who will be sharing this insane survival journey with him. Standing in the snowy safe zone, our boy asks the blonde kid if he also picked the cola at the convenience store and if his online username is Room Corner Hubby. When the protagonist asks the blonde kid if he's that foul-mouthed troll, the blonde kid glares at him. Refers to Room Corner Hubby as a foul-mouthed bastard, the blonde kid glares at him, defensively arguing that everyone uses profanity on the internet these days. The blonde kid then crosses his arms and demands to know the protagonist's username. The protagonist is taken aback. To be completely honest, he never expected to get transmigrated into a game only to end up in the exact same place as someone he had blocked just an hour ago. Realizing how incredibly awkward things will get if he reveals his true identity, he decides there is no way he can tell the kid that he is actually dopamine addict. With no other choice, he decides to borrow a different forum username and cheerfully introduces himself as T-Bastard. Let's call him T-Bast from now on. Accepting the fake name, the blonde kid asks if the protagonist also got the convenience store's address from the user Home Protector. The protagonist nods and lies, claiming that he did. As they put their heads together, they reach a clear conclusion. They are officially trapped inside the world of Apocalypse Safe Zone. The blonde kid clutches his head in absolute despair, wondering why this is happening to him and cursing Home Protector for spreading the store's address around. The pieces of the puzzle finally fall into place. The protagonist had been wondering how Room Corner Hubby managed to find that exact convenience store and get transmigrated. It turns out that after the protagonist sent the location to Home Protector, the user went ahead and shared the address all over the internet. Room Corner Hubby had gone straight to the store to check it out, only to get caught up in this absolute mess alongside him. As his blonde companion rants, our boy T-Bast realizes a terrifying possibility. If they were both transmigrated here, there could be even more players possessed and trapped in this game besides them. This means that once the second apocalypse begins, they might have to fight for their lives against other possessors from different starting zones. Shaking his head, he decides to worry about that nightmare scenario later, since immediate survival must come first. The blonde kid suddenly brightens up with a new idea. Since they are literally inside a game, he wonders if they can use the game system, hoping to access quests, shops, skill windows, or stat points. Getting incredibly excited, he starts shouting out classic game commands at the top of his lungs, calling for his status window, inventory, quest log, and character sheet, desperately begging the system to open up, but absolutely nothing happens. T-Bast looks on, realizing that this unforgiving world does not offer any game assists. Completely crushed, the blonde kid collapses to the snowy ground in despair, venting his absolute rage. He curses the game for dragging them there against their will, without even granting a starting perk, forcing them to survive this brutal world with nothing but their bare bodies as 10-year-old kids. He rants about how unfair it is to drag someone who lived a good, honest life like him into a place like this. Hearing this, our boy T-Bast can only look on with deep skepticism, highly questioning the kid's definition of living a good, honest life. Muttering to himself that he should have sworn a bit less in his past life, the blonde kid sits on the cold ground. He turns to the protagonist, asking what their plan is from now on and wanting to know how far into the game he actually got. In reality, the protagonist cleared the entire game up to the hidden knife zone, but since Dopamine Addict is the only one who has publicly achieved that feat, he realizes he needs to lower his answer to match a normal player's pace. He tells the kid that he made it up to the unicorn zone, which immediately makes the kid yell in absolute shock. The blonde kid points an accusing finger, telling him to stop lying because only Dopamine Addict and a few of his hardcore walkthrough worshippers have ever cleared that far. But this conversation triggers a sudden realization. The blonde kid leaps to his feet, remembering that Dopamine Addict was the very first person to post the convenience store's address. He deduces that the legendary guide creator must have been transmigrated into this world too, wondering if his main base is also the unicorn zone. The protagonist sweats, finding it incredibly weird that this kid knows so much about him. Trying to calm down, he recalls his forum uploads and remembers that this kid was always the second person to comment on his walkthroughs. He begins to wonder if this kid actually hates him or if there is more to it. Suddenly, the blonde kid reluctantly confesses that he is actually a devoted Dopamine Addict worshiper who knows all of the guides by heart, even if he did not actively participate in the community. When the kid asks if the protagonist also read the guides, since he seemed to comment on them too, the protagonist awkwardly agrees, but the kid quickly blushes in pure rage, throwing a massive screaming tantrum about how the creator blocked him at the very end. He rants furiously that he upvoted every post and read them the second they went up, calling Dopamine Addict an ungrateful jerk. Watching the dramatic screaming fit, the protagonist has a hilarious realization. The kid does not actually hate him, he just felt a one-sided sense of closeness and threw a massive tantrum because he got blocked. While the protagonist mutters that it is pretty gross to be trapped with his own obsessive fanboy, he decides the kid might not be such a bad guy after all. Since the kid regularly upvotes his walkthroughs, the protagonist gives him a mental +1 point, leaving himself feeling deeply conflicted about this bizarre situation. Pivoting back to their future plans, T-Bast boldly announces that from this moment on, he is going to attempt the bastard child strategy. This is a highly calculated survival method he had previously posted on his community forum. The Cola Zone is located in a harsh snowfield on the fringes of the continent, ruled and guarded by a powerful warlord faction. The absolute commander of this faction is a fierce man named Hayden Goodman. The strategy requires the protagonist to convince this commander that he is his illegitimate child, eventually positioning himself to become the faction's successor. Hearing this, the blonde kid thinks he is completely insane and urges him to drop it, reminding him that reality is far different from a video game. T-Bast dismisses the concern, coolly telling the kid to go find his own walkthrough if he is too scared. Defensive and flustered, the kid quickly follows him, arguing that he is not scared but pointing out the massive risks. To pull this off, they have to successfully deceive the brutal commander, and if they get caught in a lie, their heads will literally fly off. T-Bast lightly teases him for being scared, making the kid frantically object that he is only looking out for his companion's safety. Deep down, the protagonist entirely understands the kid's terror. Anyone would be terrified after being suddenly possessed into a game overnight, especially transmigrated into the bodies of 10-year-old kids in a brutal, apocalyptic world where people drop dead at any moment. It is only natural to be afraid, but as the protagonist places a hand over his beating chest, he realizes something bizarre. Strangely enough, he is not afraid at all. Ever since being pulled into this game, T-Bast feels a strange, rising wave of excitement. He originally believed there was no stimulation left to gain from this world, but the sheer danger of his new reality is proving otherwise. He calmly explains to his companion that he is the one who will be tricking the commander, and he does not care if he loses his life in the process. The blonde kid reacts with absolute shock at his casual disregard for his own safety. T-Bast simply shrugs it off, suggesting that dying in the game might just send him back to his original reality. The blonde kid panics at this careless theory, wondering what will happen if death in this world is permanent. To T-Bast, whether he fails a game walkthrough or gets caught in a lie, the end result is the same. This high-risk mindset only causes his dopamine levels to rise, prompting the blonde kid to scream in sheer frustration at how crazy his companion is. The blonde kid falls into a silent, ulcer-inducing rage, wondering what he is supposed to do next. Since the bastard child strategy is a solo plan that does not require a partner, the kid realizes he is about to be left completely on his own. Observing his panic, T-Bast understands the kid's real issue and begins brainstorming a suitable solution. He asks the kid if he has ever completed his military service back in reality. Startled, the blonde kid replies that he has not, explaining that he only recently turned 20. Hearing this, T-Bast realizes the kid's actual age, noting to himself that it explains why he acts like such an immature brat. T-Bast remarks that it is a relief the kid has not served yet, which only leaves the blonde kid more confused. Smiling mischievously, T-Bast leads them toward the massive, heavily guarded fortress gates of the military barracks. Standing before the armed guards, T-Bast turns to his companion and bluntly tells him to enlist in the military. The blonde kid is left standing frozen in pale-faced shock, completely blindsided by the sudden plan. The sudden suggestion of military conscription hits the blonde kid like a ton of bricks. He clutches his chest in pure disbelief, struggling to process the idea. T-Bast quickly brings him back to reality, pointing out that they are currently orphans in this world. To survive here, they have to play by the game's brutal lore. The World of Time's Apocalypse Safe Zone Times is divided into 9 safe zones, specifically to protect the remnants of humanity from alien monsters. The first apocalypse began during the Ice Age, when a massive meteorite fell from the sky, unleashing a horde of terrifying, unidentified alien creatures onto the Earth. To escape the onslaught, different territories took extreme measures. The Unicorn Zone fled high into the sky, while the Beer Zone retreated deep into the sea. But aside from those 2 sheltered sanctuaries, every other safe zone on the surface was forced to participate in regular, deadly subjugation campaigns to keep the alien beasts at bay. T-Bast secretly calculates the risks of enlisting. He knows that joining up means they will inevitably get dragged into these brutal subjugation wars. Even though they are currently in the bodies of 10-year-old children, the game system forces enlistees to participate in these combat events regardless of age. Yet, they have no other options. As homeless orphans with absolutely no one to look after them and no place to go, joining the military is their only viable path to stay alive. T-Bast looks at his companion, making it clear that they must enlist if they want to survive. The blonde kid reluctantly agrees that they need to focus on survival first, acknowledging that the military will at least provide room, board, and firearms training. However, he quickly realizes a massive problem. He does not speak a word of English, leaving him wondering how he is supposed to serve. T-Bast suddenly remembers that this game never received a Korean release. Fortunately, he is not worried, as he self-studied and mastered English in his past life solely to write his gaming walkthroughs. After submitting their enlistment applications, T-Bast tells his companion to wait a moment, explaining that since the Cola Zone accepts 10-year-olds as soldiers, their approval should come quickly. The blonde kid immediately throws another tantrum, unable to believe the enlistment forms were entirely in English. He furiously rants about being reincarnated into a game without even receiving a basic Korean language patch. As the kid screams, T-Bast sighs, recalling that he had to fill out the entire form for him, from his name to his reason for enlisting. To calm him down, T-Bast tells him not to worry and instructs him to simply answer with a firm, military-style affirmative from now on, noting that it is far easier than trying to learn military slang. As they stand in the snowy camp, T-Bast notices a peculiar detail. They seem to be the only ones speaking Korean. He watches other soldiers pass by in silence, completely unbothered by their foreign conversation. He realizes this is likely due to the game's background setting, where people of various nationalities came together to survive after the first apocalypse. This realization leads him to a new conclusion. Tbast advises the blonde kid to write down and record any critical information in Korean, ensuring that the local NPCs will never be able to decipher it. The kid agrees, noting that such a task is simple enough. However, Tbast drops a second, more difficult condition. Once they enlist, they will not be able to travel together right away. He explains that they must split up, promising to summon his partner once he successfully positions himself as Commander Hayden's successor. The blonde kid is completely shocked to learn they will have to operate separately. Deducing that Tbast has already completed his military service back in reality, the kid suggests that Tbast should enlist with him instead, pointing out how suited he seems for military life. The blonde kid silently fumes at Tbast's terrifying casual demeanor. Tbast reiterates his plan to clear the illegitimate child's route, but the kid argues that if they tackle the military together, they can progress much faster. The word together triggers a deeper thought in Tbast. He wonders how many other players besides the two of them might have been reincarnated into this specific safe zone. Shaking off the thought, he tells the kid to simply focus, memorize the instructions, and prepare for solo play for the time being. As Tbast walks away, the blonde kid frantically calls him back, demanding to know what English name Tbast wrote down for him on the enlistment form, hoping it is not his embarrassing forum username. Tbast casually replies that he will find out when the officer calls his name, assuring him it is an easy name to understand. Moments later, an enlistment officer reviews the paperwork, deeply confused by the bizarre translation written on the sheet. Looking up, the officer calls out for Darling Outsider. Hearing the commotion from the enlistment booth, Tbast is relieved to see that his companion's application went through smoothly. With his partner successfully positioned, he decides it is time to begin his own objective, searching for Luna Moon's grave. He needs to find this pitiful woman's final resting place because she was buried alongside a critical quest item, the token of the illegitimate child. To execute his strategy, Tbast recalls Hayden's complex backstory from the game. Long before becoming the commander of the Cola Zone, Hayden originally arrived from a completely different territory. Before finding his footing as a Cola soldier, he nearly lost his life, only to be miraculously rescued by a female soldier named Luna Moon. Following the rescue, the two developed a deep romantic relationship, and Luna eventually became pregnant. The couple was deeply happy, even discussing potential names for their unborn baby. However, Hayden's ambitions soon got in the way. The predecessor commander approached him with an enticing offer, promising that if Hayden married his daughter, he would inherit absolutely everything. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Hayden accepted the proposal and married the commander's daughter. Despite this political marriage, Hayden promised Luna Moon that once he officially secured his position as the new commander, he would immediately summon her and their child back to his side, pleading with her to trust him and wait. Unfortunately, that promise could never be kept, as Luna Moon suddenly vanished into thin air. While sneaking through the snowy camp, Tbast accidentally triggers a loud clinking noise. He freezes instantly, his eyes wide with tension as a nearby resident clutching a bottle stumbles past, muttering to himself about whether a rat made the sound. Relieved, Tbast realizes he almost made a critical mistake, warning himself to be extremely careful. He briefly wonders if this resident is the culprit before refocusing on his objective. He recalls how, during his previous gaming playthroughs of the Cola Zone, Commander Hayden relentlessly searched every corner for Luna Moon and their child, completely unaware that she had already passed away. Pushing through the cold, Tbast finally locates the hidden graveyard, standing before a wooden cross wrapped in white cloth. Though he feels slightly uncomfortable about disturbing a final resting place, he knows it cannot be helped. The essential quest item required to clear the illegitimate child's route is buried inside. He reaches down to begin digging, but as he scoops up a handful of dirt, his face pales. The soil is soft and loose. Panic sets in as he realizes that the loose earth means another player might have already been there and taken the item first. Sweat dripping from his face, he places his hand back onto the ground, causing a digital hexagonal interface with glowing numbers to materialize beneath his touch. Tbast reflects on Luna Moon's tragic past as he continues his work. Years ago, a deadly plague swept through the slums where she was staying. While all the healthy residents fled the infected area, she chose to remain behind as a military doctor, caring for the sick entirely on her own. Before long, however, she caught the plague herself and passed away. In gratitude for her sacrifice, her surviving patients built this hidden tomb for her. Shoveling away the cold earth under the watchful eye of a nearby crow, Tbast notes what a pity her story is, remembering her as an exceptionally kind-hearted character. Yet, this tragedy ultimately worked to his advantage. Because of the plague, people completely stopped visiting this area, which is why even Commander Hayden was never able to find her. His shovel suddenly strikes something solid with a loud clank. Digging further, Tbast realizes that the coffin has already been opened. Bracing himself, he lifts the lid. Just as he suspected, a skeleton lies resting inside the coffin. However, to his shock, he realizes that the commander's token is completely missing. To figure out his next move, T-Bast recalls the original walkthrough for the illegitimate child strategy. In his previous guide, the setup begins with a simple introduction, requiring the player to present this very token to prove their identity to the commander. To be recognized as Commander Hayden's illegitimate child, the standard walkthrough requires players to retrieve a specific token from Luna Moon's tomb and present it to him. According to the public guides, this token is supposed to be her personal dog tag. Looking down at the looted grave, T-Bast admits that while he anticipated potential complications, he really was one step too late. Someone has already beaten him to it and stolen the dog tag. Instead of panicking, T-Bast simply smirks, finding that the situation has just gotten far more interesting. He is not worried because he holds a secret he never shared in his online walkthrough posts. The dog tag was merely a decoy, and the true keepsake Hayden gave to Luna Moon is something else entirely. Reaching his hand down to the skeleton, he carefully searches the remains. With a soft creaking sound, he retrieves the authentic keepsake, a moonstone ring crafted from a fragment of the very meteor that brought destruction to their world. Under normal circumstances, players could easily clear this quest line using the dog tag. However, since the grave has been robbed after her death, T-Bast has no choice but to utilize this hidden moonstone ring to prove his lineage. Holding the glowing ring, T-Bast realizes Luna Moon probably never wanted this keepsake to be taken. He silently asks her for forgiveness for disturbing her eternal rest and apologizes for his plan to pose as her child from now on. In return, he promises that if he successfully becomes the commander's successor, he will truly treat Hayden as his father, promising to do everything he can to survive. Suddenly, a blinding blue light erupts from the ring. A system notification pops up, stating that he has taken a step closer to the secrets of the apocalypse. This completely catches T-Bast off guard, as he cannot recall such an event ever occurring in the original game. He immediately panics, realizing that the bright flare of light is going to get him caught. But before he can run, a system chime rings out, announcing that his system is being partially unlocked. He now has access to his system messages, character screens, and inventory, though the chat function remains locked. A new prompt appears, asking if he wants to check the reward for clearing all 9 safe zones. T-Bast is surprised to learn such a reward exists, wondering if it was triggered by a specific, hidden condition. Looking at the locked chat feature, he realizes he will need to check later if it can be used to communicate with other reincarnated players. While he wants to explore the system functions more, T-Bast decides it is best to open his reward first. Selecting the Confirm button, T-Bast claims his reward. A system window welcomes him under his username, Dopamine Addict, announcing that as the only player to have cleared all 9 zones, he has been granted the special privilege of inheriting his past titles. The system displays his unlocked achievements, which include Luna Moon's Friend, Poisoning Expert, Eternal Commander, Natural Enemy of the Goodman Family, and Hero of the Subjugation War. T-Bast is impressed by the extensive list. He recalls that these titles carry over effects related to how they were originally earned. For instance, equipping the Luna Moon's Friend title makes it much easier to gain goodwill from NPCs who held a favorable view of her. Since he is scheduled to meet Commander Hayden tomorrow, T-Bast decides to equip the Friend of Luna Moon title. As he makes the selection, he realizes how difficult this world must be for other reincarnated players who are likely forced to start completely from scratch without any inherited titles. He slides the moonstone ring onto his finger, silently wondering about the motives of whoever trapped them in this digital world. But the moment the ring fits, a sudden chime rings out. A system alert flashes, informing him that the effect of his equipped title has been successfully applied to a target. T-Bast freezes in confusion. This notification only pops up when an NPC influenced by the title is in his immediate vicinity. Staring out into the silent, snowy graveyard, he knows he is supposed to be entirely alone. He grips his shovel tightly, looking down at the skeleton in the open coffin. Though he is left completely in the dark about what triggered the system alert, he decides that since nothing is actively happening, he should be fine for the moment. Deciding to ignore the strange alert, T-Bast quickly covers the grave back up with dirt. While shoveling, he wonders if the person who stole the dog tags has already headed straight to the commander's mansion. He feels a slight pang of guilt, thinking how unfortunate it is that a sharp and diligent player was simply trying to follow his detailed walkthrough, only for T-Bast to have to personally ruin their plans. The scene shifts to Commander Hayden's grand, white-pillared mansion. T-Bast approaches the iron gates, where 2 armed guards stop him. One of the guards demands to know his business visiting the estate. T-Bast confidently states that he has information regarding the people His Excellency Hayden is currently looking for. The guards are stunned by his claim, realizing that what the young master told them was true, and that someone really did show up. One of the guards instructs T-Bast to follow him, explaining that the young master is waiting. As he is led through the luxurious hallways, T-Bast realizes this situation is unfolding completely differently from what he expected. He wonders who this mysterious young master could be and if they are waiting for other players to arrive. Upon reaching the doorway, a calm voice welcomes him inside, putting T-Bast on high alert as he prepares to face whoever is waiting for him. Upon entering the room, T-Bast is immediately greeted by a short-haired boy who asks if he is also a player. T-Bast silently observes him, using his newly unlocked system to scan his surroundings. A system profile pops up for the red-haired freckled boy standing nearby, revealing his username to be Taejong Beyonce, a player who has not yet unlocked the system. The short-haired kid tells T-Bast to relax, pointing out that they can speak Korean freely since the game lacks a language patch, ensuring the NPCs will not understand them. T-Bast then scans the short-haired kid himself, whose system profile reveals his username to be SafeZone8 Addict, another player with a locked system. T-Bast calmly replies that he is already well aware of the language situation. Seeing that they are cooperative and sharing information, he concludes they are not hostile. He then asks why they are waiting for other players to arrive. The short-haired kid chides him for being impatient, suggesting they should introduce themselves first. As he speaks, T-Bast's eyes lock onto the stolen Luna Moon dog tag hanging around the boy's neck. Knowing these players cannot see his actual profile because their systems are locked, T-Bast decides to bluff his way through the interaction. He introduces himself as T-Bast, borrowing the forum user's name once again. But then, the short-haired kid delivers a massive plot twist. He boldly introduces himself as Dopamine Addict. With a proud smile, the imposter clutches the stolen dog tag, completely unaware that he is trying to pass himself off as the legendary guide creator right in front of the real Dopamine Addict. T-Bast looks visibly stunned, asking the boy who he just claimed to be. The imposter observes that T-Bast seems to recognize his identity, while our boy stares back in silent confusion. SafeZone Addict proudly boasts about his former fame on the community boards, leaving our boy standing frozen in deadpan disbelief in the background. He dramatically clutches his head, bragging that people referred to him as the first all-zone clearer of the safe zone. Observing the theatrical display, T-Bast realizes that this boy is actively trying to impersonate him. SafeZone Addict condescendingly notes that T-Bast barged into the mansion without a solid plan and dismissively asks him to leave. He holds up the stolen dog tag with a confident smile, declaring that T-Bast cannot even begin the strategy guide without this specific item. T-Bast looks on thoughtfully, realizing that the imposter's reckless confidence might actually work to his advantage. SafeZone Addict extends a hand toward him, suggesting that his attitude makes him useful and offering him a chance to work under him just like Taejong Beyonce. Staring at the extended hand, our boy realizes the true reality behind the imposter's offer. He understands that players who fail to adapt to this brutal world will drop out before they ever get the chance to attempt a strategy guide. T-Bast recognizes that players who adapted to this world will gather seeking a strategy guide, and SafeZone Addict is actively searching for pawns to place on his chessboard. He realizes that to eventually become Commander Hayden's successor, the imposter knows he will need useful helpers to assist him in many ways. SafeZone Addict asks if he needs time to think over the offer, but our boy gives an immediate refusal. T-Bast internally resolves that he has absolutely no intention of cooperating with the fraud. He tells SafeZone Addict to go call the commander, while inwardly seething over how this random player dares to exploit his personal strategy guide. Our boy promises to testify that the imposter is the commander's son, privately resolving to show everyone what a real strategy looks like. With the impersonator leaving the room to fetch the commander, T-Bast turns his focus to the remaining player. Calling out to Taejong Beyonce, he decides to figure out why SafeZone Addict is keeping this specific player around. Our boy asks Taejong Beyonce if he also came here for the illegitimate child strategy and ended up teaming up with the imposter. Taejong Beyonce politely explains that was not the case, revealing that he actually woke up in the exact same starting location as the fake creator from the very beginning. T-Bast confirms whether he really spawned in the exact same location, and Taejong Beyonce politely validates this. Our boy silently notes that the red-haired boy is surprisingly cooperative. The MC realizes that SafeZone Addict started impersonating him as soon as he transmigrated. He then asks Taejong Beyonce why he is following the fraud around instead of simply enlisting. Taejong Beyonce sighs with a deeply exhausted expression, confessing that he did not want to go back to military service. Hearing this, T-Bast realizes that Taejong Beyonce is a military veteran. Our boy observes that Taejong Beyonce seems gentle but possesses a large physical build. He instantly understands why SafeZone Addict keeps the veteran around to act as a shield. He asks Taejong Beyonce if he resents Dopamine Addict for the address he leaked that caused their suffering. He calmly responds that he is already aware of that situation. Taejong Beyonce admits that he is actually glad about their current situation, prompting a surprised T-Bast to ask what he means. He clenches his fist with intense passion, declaring that getting to play the game alongside Dopamine Addict makes his heart race. Taejong Beyonce passionately shouts that he is a massive fan and that Dopamine Addict is his idol, causing T-Bass to sweat drop as he realizes this boy is not sane either. He explains that since his hero cleared every safe zone, there is no reason not to follow him in this world, leaving T-Bass standing in silent disbelief. Shifting to a dead serious expression, he warns T-Bass that if he wants to survive the apocalypse, he had better do exactly as the creator says. Our boy quietly notes that Taejong Beyonce has a remarkably distinct personality, deciding to ask him one more clarifying question. He directly asks Taejong Beyonce if he is indeed an absolute supporter of Dopamine Addict. Looking slightly nervous, Taejong Beyonce quickly confirms that he absolutely is. Our boy calmly tells Taejong Beyonce that he has passed the test, leaving the red-haired boy utterly bewildered. Before Taejong Beyonce can ask what he means by that declaration, the massive doors of the room violently burst open. Commander Hayden Goodman steps into the room, asking if someone who claims to recognize him is present. A system notification chimes to life, announcing that the title effect, Friend of Luna Moon, has been applied to Commander Hayden as T-Bass looks on. A second system alert flashes, informing our boy that holding Luna Moon's ring doubles the title effect, leaving him internally surprised by the unexpected boost. Commander Hayden steps directly up to T-Bass, catching the young boy off guard as he draws near. Hayden kneels down directly in front of T-Bass, softly observing that the boy looks just like her. Our boy wonders if the title effect is more than a simple boost in favorability, questioning if it genuinely makes him resemble Luna Moon in Commander Hayden's eyes. Safe Zone Addict nervously sweats as he senses the heavy tension, wondering what is happening with the bizarre atmosphere. Irritated by Safe Zone Addict shouting loudly about the promised testimony for his father, our boy reaches into his pocket and asks Commander Hayden to look at what he has. T-Bass opens his hand to reveal the Moonstone ring, presenting it as his mother's final keepsake. Commander Hayden stares down at the revealed ring in complete, stunned shock. Safe Zone Addict internally wonders what that old ring is supposed to be, while Commander Hayden demands to know the meaning of the situation. Safe Zone Addict stammers in shock as Commander Hayden confronts him, pointing out that he claimed to be his son, Haydum. Hayden's expression turns dark as he notes that the ring of his beloved is currently sitting in someone else's hands. Safe Zone Addict mentally panics over why a ring was brought up when his walkthrough stated dog tags were the proof, frantically lying that the ring is actually his and was stolen. Safe Zone Addict freezes in complete terror under the heavy pressure as Hayden coldly commands him to shut his mouth. Hayden warns Safe Zone Addict that deceiving him any further will bring no mercy, even to a child, sternly asking if the boy understands. Taejong Beyonce calls out to his companion in deep concern, as Safe Zone Addict frantically panics internally, unable to comprehend why his strategy guide specified dog tags. Sweat pours down Safe Zone Addict's face as a horrifying realization suddenly strikes him. He stares at the calm T-Bass in sudden terror, demanding to know who he really is. Safe Zone Addict frantically shouts in desperation to demand his true identity, but T-Bass calmly asks back who else he could possibly think he is. A system notification announces that player Safe Zone 8 has officially failed the strategy, leaving him screaming in shock as horror washes over him. Another system prompt flashes, initiating an immediate court dismissal to eliminate the player who failed the guide. As the transmigrator inside the body is forcefully purged, Safe Zone 8 collapses limp to the ground while our boy and Hayden watch. Simultaneously, a system alert informs T-Bass that ownership of both Luna Moon's ring and dog tags has been officially transferred to his inventory under the name Dopamine Addict. T-Bass is taken aback by the sudden system alert, internally shocked by the automatic item transfer. Commander Hayden barks orders to immediately transport the unconscious boy to the infirmary. Meanwhile, T-Bass reflects on the system rules, knowing there is only one specific scenario where another user's items are transferred inside a safe zone. Our boy knows that an automatic item transfer only occurs when a player kill is successfully executed. Staring down in deep thought, he unsettlingly wonders if failing a strategy guide actually results in permanent death. He considers the possibility that dying might simply send a player back to their original reality. Nearby, Taejong Beyonce softly weeps in grief for his fallen companion. Taejong Beyonce slumps against the wall in distress, crying out and wondering why his companion suddenly collapsed. T-Bass approaches him from behind and calmly tells the grieving boy to compose himself. Our boy reveals a shocking truth, explaining that the boy who just collapsed was never actually his real companion. Taejong Beyonce turns around in utter shock, struggling to comprehend what he just heard. Recalling a past message from Taejong Beyonce thanking him for his guides, T-Bass points out that the boy claimed to be his fan. T-Bass looks down at the stunned player with a subtle smile, noting the irony that he failed to recognize him standing right in front of him. Finally dropping his disguise, our boy confidently reveals that he is the real Dopamine Addict. Taejong Beyonce looks at our boy in shock, asking if he is truly his Hyungnim. Our boy replies that Taejong Beyonce has not unlocked his system yet, so he would not understand how he knows. A system window displays the profile for Safe Zone 8, showing that his system is locked and his affiliation is Cola Zone. Dopamine Addict adds that he can see the hidden information of other players. Our boy states the full username Taejong Tae Se Beyonce. He gasps in stunned shock as his true player identity is called out. Our boy looks forward with confidence, knowing there is no way he would fail a strategy guide so soon. Taejong Beyonce cries out in loud remorse, frantically begging Dopamine Addict for forgiveness. He thinks that he knew something was off because there was no way Dopamine Hyung Nim would fail a strategy so soon, while internally realizing he almost let that tone fool him. Taejong Beyonce tells Dopamine Addict that he knew he was the real Dopamine Hyung Nim, while our boy thinks that Taejong Beyonce actually believed that tone and tells him to keep it down because he does not want to reveal his identity yet. Dopamine Addict tells him that not every player will be friendly toward him. He tells Taejong Beyonce to call him Haydam Goodman from now on, prompting him to ask if he is the commander's son and immediately reply, "Yes sir, got it." Our boy tells Taejong Beyonce that if he cooperates, he will help him survive in this zone, and Taejong Beyonce enthusiastically responds that he will do his absolute best. He happily calls out to his Hyung Nim, adding that he just wants to survive without getting drafted. Watching the exchange, Dopamine Addict quietly concludes that the red-haired boy is definitely easy to handle. Snow falls against the cold stone walls, as our boy reflects that although the Cola Zone is relatively easy overall, there is only so much he can accomplish in the body of a 10-year-old. Our boy thinks about the players scattered across the other zones and realizes that building as many allies as possible is the smartest move. He clenches the hand inside his pocket and focuses on what lies ahead. Our boy opens his palm to reveal Luna Moon's ring, and a system notification appears with a new quest titled Secrets of the Apocalypse. He recalls that every zone contains a single meteorite item, something he already knew from playing the game before. After obtaining the meteorite item, our boy receives a system alert stating that he has taken one step closer to uncovering the secrets of the apocalypse. It is the first time he has ever seen this message. Right after the notification appears, he notices that part of his system has been unlocked. He realizes that collecting meteorite items from the remaining zones will bring him even closer to uncovering the secrets of the apocalypse. His gaze shifts toward Taejong Beyonce as he realizes that simply stopping the apocalypse is no longer enough. Now, he also has to uncover the truth behind it. A faint smile crosses our boy's face as he reflects that reality really is different from the game. He tells Taejong Beyonce to inform the commander, once he returns, that Safe Zone 8 had deceived him. Taejong Beyonce listens carefully to the advice. Our boy explains that staying beside the fake son will only make the commander grow suspicious of Taejong Beyonce. He promises to introduce him to another player once they escape safely. He reveals that the player helping him goes by the name Room Corner Hubby. Taejong Beyonce immediately recognizes the name, recalling the player's notoriously foul mouth, and Dopamine Addict confirms it. He tells Taejong Beyonce to play along when they meet that player later. The guy readily agrees and assures his young Nim that he understands completely. He suddenly changes the subject, leaving our boy curious about what he wants to say next. Taejong Beyonce shares his belief that the player impersonating our boy had been possessed as well. Surprised, Dopamine Addict asks how he knows that. Taejong Beyonce explains that heavy users started disappearing after the convenience store's location was posted online. He continues by saying that everyone, including himself, rushed to the convenience store out of curiosity. Taejong Beyonce reveals that he met someone at the store, and when they introduced themselves, that person claimed to be Dopamine Addict. He asks whether the boy is buying a knife. The buyer replies that he decided to give it a try after the Knife Zone strategy guide was posted online. The player comments that it is a hidden zone after all. Taejong Beyonce recalls watching him buy the knife before checking out. Our boy realizes that the player's starting location must have been the Knife Zone. He silently concludes that the player ended up in the absolute worst starting location imaginable. Our boy quickly defends himself, reasoning that no one can blame him since he only shared the convenience store's location with Home Protector. He asks Taejong Beyonce whether he saw the imposter get hit on the head before becoming possessed. Completely confused, the guy asks what he means by getting hit. Our boy explains that the store clerk struck the imposter on the head with a barcode scanner, and Taejong was possessed as he walked out of the convenience store. Caught off guard, Dopamine Addict asks whether he was never hit at all. Taejong quietly nods, confirming that he was not. The memory of the shadowy clerk attacking him from behind resurfaces, leaving our boy wondering in frustration why the clerk targeted him in the first place. He decides to put the matter aside since it is not important right now. With a sigh, Dopamine reminds Taejong to remember his instructions and insists that he was tricked if anyone questions him. Our boy reflects that the moment he has been waiting for has finally arrived, just as the heavy doors slowly creak open. A guard appears at the doorway and calls for the black-haired boy, announcing that Commander Hayden wishes to see him. Dopamine quietly realizes that his opportunity is finally here. He calmly replies that he is on his way. Our boy enters the grand hall and makes his way to the long dining table where Commander Hayden waits at the head. As he pulls out a chair, our boy politely apologizes for keeping Hayden waiting, while quietly marveling at just how powerful the title's effect must be. Commander Hayden explains that he sent his friend back because he was not feeling well. Sitting across from him, Dopamine admits to himself that he never expected the commander to invite him to a meal so quickly. Hayden reveals that he spent years searching for both him and Luna Moon without success. He then asks where they had been hiding all this time. Lowering his gaze to the table, our boy explains that his mother was in the back of the slums. Caught off guard, Hayden asks whether Luna Moon had really been living there. He quietly clarifies that, to be precise, the slums are where his mother's grave is. The revelation leaves Hayden frozen in stunned silence. Hayden grips the edge of the table with a trembling fist as the painful truth that Luna Moon is already dead finally sinks in. Hayden admits that he failed to keep his promise, causing Dopamine Addict to lose his mother. Hoping to make up for those lost years, he vows to do everything he can. Hearing those words, our boy immediately recognizes the familiar dialogue. Hayden promises to name him as his successor and leave everything in his hands. Dopamine realizes that this is the exact line that appears after clearing the illegitimate child strategy. A system window appears to announce that the strategy has been successfully completed. It unlocks the 3 rewards strategy and instructs the player to choose 3 rewards wisely. A satisfied smile forms on his face as the system window appears before him. To our boy, clearing the illegitimate child strategy was only the beginning. He knows that becoming the commander of the Cola Zone depends on clearing the 3 rewards strategy. Everything now hinges on the rewards he chooses to request. Our boy understands that Hayden will ultimately decide whether he is worthy of becoming his successor. Hayden asks him to name his reward. Dopamine Addict has already decided on his first request before he begins to speak. He asks Hayden to visit his mother's grave regularly. Our boy knows that the more often Commander Hayden visits Luna Moon's grave, the more people will recognize how deeply the commander cares about him. Those visits will also lead to inspections of the slums, earning him even more successor points. Hayden promises that now that he finally knows where she rests, he will visit her grave often. A system notification confirms that one of the 3 rewards has been selected. As he looks down in thought, our boy realizes that he still has 2 rewards remaining. Hayden quietly watches Dopamine Addict, lost in thought. Breaking the silence, Hayden says there is something they should take care of first, leaving our boy wondering what he means. Hot potatoes, fresh cornbread, steak, and salad are laid across the table as Hayden invites him to eat. His eyes widen in surprise as he takes in the meal. Potatoes, cornbread, salad, and real meat instead of monster byproducts fill the table, and he realizes that every dish is incredibly rare. Hayden apologizes for putting the meal together in such a hurry, saying it is nothing special, before encouraging him to eat as much as he likes. Dopamine politely replies that it is more than enough. Our boy concludes that Taejong Beyonce's situation seems to be resolving without any issues. Meanwhile, Taejong Beyonce desperately apologizes to a confused guard, who tells him to stop because he has no idea what he is talking about. Satisfied that everything is going smoothly, he relaxes and lifts a piece of bread toward his mouth. Just as our boy is about to take a bite, the bread suddenly disappears from his hand in a flash of light. He stares at his empty hand in disbelief, unable to understand why the bread vanished before he even got a chance to eat it. Commander Hayden suddenly leans forward in alarm, asking what just happened to the bread in Dopamine Addict's hand. Caught off guard, our boy freezes in shock. Panic immediately sets in as he wonders whether he has just been exposed. Hayden suddenly grabs our boy's hand across the table, insisting that he knew he was not imagining things. As he examines the small hand closely, Hayden realizes that the wound has completely vanished. Our boy stares in disbelief, internally wondering how his wound disappeared so completely. His eyes fall to his now spotless hand, and he finally accepts that the injury is truly gone. He recalls how the food vanished the moment he ate it, just like consuming an item in a game where its effects are applied instantly. His thoughts drift to everything that has happened, and he realizes this world has been strange from the very beginning. He suddenly notices that ever since possessing this body, he has not felt hungry even once. A system window displays cornbread that restores 10 HP, making our boy realize that food in this world heals injuries instead of satisfying hunger. The glowing system interface confirms his suspicion that the game's mechanics are being applied directly to reality. A soft glow restores his injured leg, making our boy realize he no longer has to worry about regular meals and can quickly recover from any wounds. Since the All-Zone Clearer perk never mentioned this effect, he concludes that it must be a basic ability shared by every possessed player. He decides to test the limits of this healing later. His attention shifts to Hayden, who sits with his head resting on his hands, leaving our boy wondering how he should explain everything. Before he can say a word, Hayden cuts him off and says there is no need to explain. Hayden reveals that Luna Moon also possessed a healing ability, leaving our boy completely stunned. He explains that countless people have appeared over the years claiming to be his real child, while our boy listens quietly. Hayden states that every one of those people was lying as he looks down at our boy. He then sincerely thanks our boy for coming to find him. Our boy lowers his head and quietly mutters that something about this situation feels strange. Our boy recalls that no NPC in the game ever possessed a healing ability, and Luna Moon was supposed to be nothing more than a game character. That memory resurfaces, making him wonder if Luna Moon might have been a player as well. Relief washes over him when he realizes he did not blow his cover, though he now has even more mysteries to investigate. He begins to question why the Moonstone Ring, the symbol of Hayden and Luna Moon's love, holds the secrets behind the apocalypse. The thought of Luna Moon lingers in his mind as he wonders whether she truly possessed a healing ability. He considers asking Hayden how his mother used that ability, but quickly decides it would only raise suspicion. For now, our boy decides that securing his position has to come first. Later, he politely calls out to Hayden while they sit together at the dining table. He says there is something he would like to ask, and Hayden calmly tells him to go ahead. Our boy requests his next reward, asking for a monthly meal with children around his own age. A system notification appears, confirming that 2 of the 3 rewards have now been selected. Hayden asks why our boy wants to eat with other children, and he explains that many kids outside are suffering from cold and hunger. He adds that he feels fortunate to receive such a meal and wants to help those children in whatever way he can. In reality, he knows that is only a cover story, since only players in this world can actually absorb food. Hosting a single meal would let him easily distinguish players from ordinary NPCs. If players like Taejong Beyonce or Room Corner Hubby show up, our boy will have a much easier time keeping track of them. He also realizes the gathering would help him earn the trust of children his own age, making it an all-around beneficial plan. Everything now depends on Hayden accepting the request as the commander rests his chin on his hand and falls into deep thought. Our boy understands the hesitation, realizing that from the commander's perspective, the request could easily be viewed as a political welfare program. As he takes a sip of tea, he quietly reminds himself that making this request happen is far from impossible. Our boy offers to compromise, telling Hayden that he understands if granting such a request would be too expensive. He knows playing on the commander's guilt is his best option, so he quietly says he is perfectly fine with drinking only water. He even admits that he used to eat snow whenever there was nothing else to eat, leaving Hayden visibly disturbed. Holding his teacup, our boy softly asks Hayden if he could please consider the request, just this once. Then he looks up with hopeful eyes and timidly calls him Dad. The single word leaves Hayden completely speechless as he freezes in place beneath a heavy shadow. Unable to refuse, Hayden promises to arrange the gathering early next month, and a system notification confirms that 2 of the 3 rewards have now been selected. Silence fills the grand mansion as chandeliers cast a warm glow across the long hallway. Hayden stands beside the bed and gently wishes our boy a good night's sleep. From beneath the covers, our boy quietly wishes the commander a peaceful good night. Hayden remains in the dim room, quietly lost in thought. He calls the boy Hayden and admits he must have countless questions about why he married another woman despite loving his mother, and why he failed to protect her as commander. Hayden gently rests a hand on our boy's head, explaining that the truth would be too difficult for a child his age to understand. With a gentle smile, he promises to tell our boy everything when the time is right. He then asks our boy to share what he knows when that day comes, and a quiet agreement comes from the bed. Hayden lowers his gaze, satisfied that this much is enough for now. As he heads for the door, he quietly reminds himself that he already gave the boy permission to call him Dad. Left alone in bed, our boy realizes that calling Hayden Dad is surprisingly effective. He runs a hand through his hair and decides that even if he cannot truly see Hayden as his father yet, he should keep using the title since he will eventually need him as the manager of his future shelter. A glowing blue system notification suddenly appears, announcing that the chat feature has been activated now that at least 2 players have unlocked the system. Our boy suddenly sits upright in bed, staring at the glowing hologram as he realizes another player has unlocked the system. The prompt to enter the public chat room appears, and he decides to test whether meteorite items really are the key to unlocking the system. Without hesitation, he taps the enter button to join the chat room. A system alert announces that Dopamine Addict has entered the public chat room. Moments later, another notification appears, revealing that T-Bastard has also entered the public chat room. Our boy freezes in disbelief when he realizes the second player to unlock the system is T-Bastard. He recalls Taejong Beyonce's warning and realizes T-Bastard is currently in the knife zone, where meteorite items are supposedly crucial for carrying out the zone resident massacre strategy. The knife zone is a den of dangerous psychopaths where the streets are filled with ruthless killers, and anyone too weak quickly becomes their next victim. Its sheer brutality leaves only one way to clear the area: complete the zone inhabitant massacre quest by wiping out every single resident. As our boy studies the glowing system screen, he realizes that while clearing the knife zone seems impossible, there is actually one proven method. That method revolves around the Knife Zone's meteorite item, a powerful dagger capable of letting even a child bring down an enemy with a single strike. Even with that dagger, the challenge is far from easy. He remembers barely succeeding himself after dying countless times. That realization leaves him stunned. T-Bast not only survived the Knife Zone, but also managed to unlock the system. A message soon appears in the chat room as T-Bast calls him dopamine addict, convincing him that this newcomer is definitely no ordinary person. His thoughts race as he wonders what to ask first. Did T-Bast also unlock the system with a meteorite item, or he already progressed much farther? Our boy finally replies in the chat room, confirming that he is dopamine addict while reminding himself to stay calm during the conversation. A message suddenly pops up in the chat as T-Bast declares that he will hunt down and kill dopamine addict, leaving our boy frozen in shock and confusion. Morning arrives as sunlight spreads across the snow-covered mansion grounds. Taejong Beyonce opens the door and tells our boy to wake up, explaining that the director wants to see him. Our boy turns away from the bright window in surprise after hearing the unexpected news. He looks at Taejong Beyonce and asks where he is supposed to go. His thoughts drift back to the previous night, when he desperately tried to calm T-Bast by explaining in the chat that he never transmigrated him and only wanted to help because they were trapped in the same situation. Despite the hostility, he knows T-Bast is incredibly capable and realizes he will need his help to obtain the Knife Zone's meteorite item. Our boy shares a few valuable tips through the chat, explaining that players no longer need to eat and can even recover from their injuries, prompting T-Bast to admit the information is useful. Even after hearing the explanation, T-Bast vows that if he survives, he will find dopamine addict and kill him. Our boy realizes the grudge runs far deeper than he expected. As he stares at the chat screen, he can't help but think T-Bast is living through hell, and that the desire for revenge may be the only reason he's still fighting to survive. Our boy sends one last message, telling T-Bast that he is in the Cola Zone and urging him to stay alive long enough to kill him, hoping the promise of revenge keeps him going. Since then, T-Bast has not sent another reply. He figures T-Bast is probably too busy trying to survive when a voice suddenly calls out to him from across the courtyard. Director Mersal Pendleton remarks that he met someone claiming to be Hayden yesterday, and now another one has appeared today. He is Commander Hayden's trusted adjutant. Our boy calmly asks what his point is while inwardly scoffing at the director's arrogant attitude. He remembers that Mursold is both calculating and deeply suspicious. In the game, our boy usually dealt with him by poisoning him to make clearing the zone much easier. Mersal warns that even if he truly is Commander Hayden's son, he had better learn to show proper respect. He goes on to remind him that Commander Hayden's official wife is Lady Daphne, insisting that our boy is nothing more than an illegitimate child. Although Director Mersalt is behaving exactly as he did in the game, our boy decides he will spare him this time. Our boy recalls that Mersalt grew up as an orphan and child soldier. Although emotionally guarded, he earned his position through exceptional ability. Deep inside, Director Mersalt carried a secret dream. He longed for a family where parents cherished their children, and those children loved them just as deeply in return. As he stood alone in the cold with his rifle, Mursal clung to that vision of a warm and loving home. More than anything else, he wanted to build a family like that for himself. One day, a woman approached him and gently spoke to him after noticing his wounded hand. She was Daphne Goodman, the previous commander's daughter, and she kindly offered him a cloth to treat his injury. Mursal convinced himself that the flutter in his heart came only because she belonged to such a distinguished family. He quietly watched Daphne Goodman walk away, telling himself that those feelings were nothing more than an impossible dream. In the end, Mursal could never admit that he had truly fallen for the commander's daughter. Rather than confronting those feelings, Mursal buried himself completely in his work. He kept his emotions locked away and devoted himself to protecting the place Daphne Goodman called home. Everything changed when a man suddenly entered Daphne Goodman's life. That man was Hayden, who married Daphne Goodman and inherited the title of commander. After becoming Commander Hayden's adjutant, Mursalt eventually uncovered the truth. He learned that Hayden and Daphne's relationship was nothing more than a marriage of convenience. Unable to stay silent any longer, Mursal raises his voice and confronts Commander Hayden. He declares that he would never have interfered if Lady Daphne were truly happy, but insists that the commander does not genuinely love her. Although Mursal admits Commander Hayden fully deserves his position through his abilities, he passionately urges him to end the marriage. Commander Hayden thanks him for the compliment, then dryly remarks that the request sounds a little strange. Hayden points out that Mursalt is one of the military's finest talents. Yet, instead of trying to claim the commander's seat, he is asking him to divorce Daphne Goodman. He then tells Mursal to listen carefully, admitting that he and Daphne Goodman were never in love, leaving the director visibly stunned. Hayden explains that he is only waiting for the day he can finally reunite with his real family. Once he finds his child and passes on the title of commander, he says Daphne Goodman will finally be free as well. The revelation leaves Mursal speechless, before Hayden says he has one question to ask. Hayden asks Mersalt if he loves Daphne Goodman, while our boy watches on, already knowing the answer hidden in the director's heart. Mersalt stammers in disbelief, shaken that the commander has asked the very question he never wanted to face. Our boy steps forward and admits that he may be nothing more than an illegitimate child, just as Mersalt claimed. Even so, he believes that is exactly why he understands the director's deepest wish. He quietly reminds himself that Mersalt is an extraordinarily valuable ally. Placing a hand over his heart, our boy tells Mersalt that he has spent his entire life longing for a real family as well, deciding to take a different approach this time. Our boy sincerely tells Mersalt that he understands how he feels, determined to bring the talented director over to his side. He steps outside the grand mansion beneath a clear blue sky. A thought suddenly crosses his mind as he wonders if he may have overplayed the sympathy act. Mersalt apologized for his earlier rudeness, and our boy quietly breathes a sigh of relief as his plan pays off. Without warning, a glowing blue system window appears right in front of him. Notifications rapidly flood the screen as players named God, Dentist, Sap Possible, I Don't Cry, It's Cardio, and Junkie all enter the public chat room at the same time, catching our boy completely by surprise. He expected more players to unlock the system eventually, but seeing so many appear all at once leaves him bewildered. As he wonders whether one particular person has arrived, another notification announces that Bard has entered the public chat room. A faint smile crosses his face as he quietly welcomes Home Protector, recognizing them as the mastermind behind the mass possession and the person T-Bast should really be blaming. The moment Home Protector recognizes the name Dopamine Addict, they send a shocked message asking if he was possessed too. Home Protector calls out to Dopamine Addict in surprise, asking if he was possessed too. God sends a message asking if it is really Dopamine Addict, excitedly declaring that he is a huge fan. Junkie chimes in with confusion, asking what this chat room is and admitting he thought he was the only one who had been possessed. Home Protector realizes everyone visited the convenience store after seeing the address he posted. Our boy stares at the glowing blue screen in disbelief as he reads the message. Home Protector happily says it is great to see everyone gathered like this. Internally, our boy can only think the guy is living in complete la-la land. He reflects that once the second apocalypse begins, low difficulty zones will quickly come under attack, making them nearly impossible to turn into safe shelters. He knows players will eventually have to leave low difficulty zones for higher level ones, even as everyone else foolishly sits around a campfire. Most players, he realizes, are only concerned with surviving the early stages and stubbornly remain in easy zones. He knows that choosing to stay in an easy zone ultimately leads players straight toward annihilation. Our boy glances at the glowing screen before messaging the chat room that he is in the cola zone. He then asks everyone which zones they are in so he can gauge the overall situation. God announces in the chat room that he is in the love zone. Sap Possible sends a message to the chat room, revealing that he is currently in the beer zone. Cardio says he is in the chicken zone. Junkie hesitantly follows, admitting that he ended up in the cocaine zone. God jokingly asks if Junkie bought cocaine at the convenience store. Junkie sheepishly replies that he thought it was just flour. Our boy tells the chat room that T-Bast is in the knife zone. God reacts in shock. Home Protector asks if it is a hidden zone, and Cardio offers his condolences. Home Protector announces that he is in the cigarette zone. Reading the message, our boy figures from his carefree attitude that he really did end up in an easy zone. He silently warns Home Protector not to die, knowing he is someone our boy needs to meet alive. He admits he likes Home Protector's easygoing attitude. Meanwhile, Cardio offers T-Bast his condolences, and Home Protector remarks that the knife zone is no ordinary place before asking which zone Dentist was possessed in. Dentist questions whether everyone actually believes what has been said, asking why T-Bast is not the one saying it himself. Our boy quietly watches the holographic screen as the suspicion unfolds. Dentist asks how he is supposed to trust the group enough to reveal his own zone. Watching the chat, our boy realizes Dentist is completely on edge. God asks Dentist if he knows that Dopamine Addict is an all-zone clearer, warning him not to miss the chance to exchange information with him. He then asks whether Dentist just arrived in his safe zone and if he is a newbie. Our boy rests his chin on one hand as he studies the screen. He reflects that players cannot contact each other across zones until the second apocalypse, so revealing a zone should not be a problem. That only makes Dentist's defensiveness seem even stranger. Dentist asks what a safe zone is and says he is just a dentist. From that response, our boy immediately realizes the man is a complete newbie. Home Protector God and Cardio flood the chat room with messages of surprise after learning Dentist is new. Our boy notices how excited the veteran players have become. He remembers there was a dental clinic right beside the convenience store and concludes that Dentist must have stopped by the shop before getting dragged into the game world. He recalls that only the candy and unicorn zones remain. In his mind, there is no way an ordinary person could have survived the unicorn zone. Our boy concludes that Dentist must be in the candy zone. Meanwhile, Dentist asks the chat what a newbie is. He silently watches the chat room as everyone reacts. The others are relieved that Candy is an easy zone, while laughing in disbelief that Dentist does not even know what a newbie is. Our boy thanks everyone for answering his questions before saying he has one more thing to ask. God immediately replies, asking what it is. He tells the chat room that he suspects obtaining a meteorite item is the key requirement for unlocking the system. He then asks if anyone else has acquired a meteorite item as well. God replies that he owns a pair of meteorite earrings. Home Protector suddenly realizes why his system unlocked, adding that he has a meteorite pistol. Sap Possible says he also came into contact with one yesterday, explaining that his submarine is powered by a meteorite. Cardio adds that he owns a meteorite dumbbell. Dentist explains that the leader of his group made him touch a strange stone, guessing that it may have been a meteorite. Junkie asks if unlocking the system is connected to meteorites. Our boy quietly listens as the message appears on the screen. Junkie admits he does not actually own anything that could be considered a meteorite item. Reading the message, our boy is caught by surprise. He realizes that while some people possess meteorite items, others only need to touch or briefly come into contact with one. Our boy concludes that simply coming into contact with a meteorite item is enough to unlock the system. He turns his attention back to the chat and asks if anyone has encountered other players. Home Protector says he has not seen any other players. God claims everyone in the Love Zone serves him. Cardio says the players in the Chicken Zone joined forces. Dentist admits this is his first time hearing about other players. And Sap Possible reveals he is now the only survivor left in the Beer Zone. Our boy reflects that although other players are still alive in the Chicken and Love Zones, only one person in each of those zones has managed to unlock the system. Our boy considers that simply touching a meteorite may not be enough, and suspects there are additional conditions for unlocking the system. He wonders why the Unicorn Zone is the only one that has yet to unlock the system, deciding to figure out what is happening there over time. He lets out a tired sigh as he lies flat on his bed in his white uniform, realizing sleep is not happening tonight. Our boy tells the chat room he has to leave, and offers to help if anything comes up. Another player jokes that he is going to fall asleep in class tomorrow. A few days later, the scene shifts to the grand hallway leading into the executive conference room. A scarred official from the Pro-Daphne faction grimly asks whether they have found the child of the deserter. A member of the Pro-Hayden faction fires back in anger, calling it a disgraceful way to speak about a hero of the subjugation war. The Pro-Daphne official scoffs, arguing that she cannot be called a hero after abandoning everyone and running away. Enraged, a member of the Pro-Hayden faction jumps to his feet and accuses them of worshipping a woman who never once stepped onto the battlefield. Another official shouts back in outrage, demanding to know how anyone could speak that way about a woman who never even fought on the battlefield. A furious fist slams down on the wooden table, shaking the room with the force of the blow. A cold voice cuts through the heated argument, bluntly declaring that everyone in the room has gone senile. Anton, the leader of the Pro-Daphne faction, sternly rebukes the officers for daring to raise their voices in the commander's presence. Commander Hayden raises a hand to quiet the room, admitting that he is curious as well. Anton continues, asking whether the commander truly considers that woman a deserter. Hayden remains silent as Anton follows up by asking if he considers her a hero instead. After a brief pause, Hayden calmly suggests that perhaps his son can answer that question. The massive doors slowly swing open as Hayden announces that he will introduce his son to everyone. Glowing blue system notifications spread across the room, announcing that the title Friend of Luna Moon is taking effect on everyone present in the conference room. Our boy steps forward in a neat dark vest and tie as Hayden formally introduces him as his son, Hayden. He immediately feels the intense hostility pouring from the elite guards around him. Although he expected some resentment, our boy never imagined it would be this overwhelming. Our boy steps confidently into the room, quietly impressed by the commanding presence of the assembled officers. He walks past Commander Hayden, reflecting that he is being introduced before every top executive in the Cola Zone. He recalls that half of the Cola Zone's top brass belong to the Pro-Daphne faction. The other half he knows are Pro-Hayden executives who fought alongside Luna Moon. He realizes that if he calls Luna Moon a deserter, the officers will question whether the child of a deserter can be trusted, costing him the support of the Pro-Hayden faction. On the other hand, if he calls Luna Moon a hero, the Pro-Daphne faction will never accept his leadership. Our boy realizes that Luna Moon is not the real issue at the heart of this conflict. He addresses the gathered executives, declaring that it does not matter whether they see his mother as a deserter or a hero. He calmly states that the only thing that truly matters is that Hayden is his father. He knows that a power struggle can only be answered with power. Across the room, the scarred official glares at him with barely restrained fury. The scarred official shoots to his feet in fury, demanding to know how a bastard of unknown origin dares to speak that way. The outburst catches our boy completely off guard. Another official yells for everyone to seize the child at once. Before anyone can move, blood suddenly splatters across our boy's face and vest. The official stares down at the bloody wound in his chest, frozen in shock and agony, while our boy silently watches him collapse. An anxious voice calls out, asking if Master Hayden is all right. The director lowers his smoking gun with a worried expression, admitting that he thought our boy was about to get hurt and fired without thinking. Our boy gently tugs at his blood-stained tie before calmly asking what they are supposed to do now that the clothes Commander Hayden gave him have been ruined. The officers' meeting comes to an abrupt end as Dopamine Addict stands quietly with blood splattered across his cheek and vest. Despite witnessing a man die right in front of him, our boy does not even bat an eye. Hayden walks down the hall beside Mursal, admitting that although he knew he was clever, he never expected him to be this bold. He mentions that he asked Mursal to educate Dopamine Addict over the past few days before asking what he truly thinks of the child. Mursal replies that he already knew the boy was no ordinary person, yet he has still managed to exceed every expectation. He explains that Haydim mastered formal etiquette with ease, then memorized the Goodman family history and the entire military hierarchy after hearing it only once in front of the intelligence board. Earlier, our boy listened closely to every detail of Daphne Goodman's story while studying the photo board. Mursal reflects that his remarkable focus and memory were astonishing for someone so young, but another talent impressed him even more. That greatest surprise turns out to be his extraordinary marksmanship. Mursal admits with a serious expression that even after witnessing his unbelievable abilities firsthand, he can still hardly believe they are real. He reflects that his posture, breathing, and composure were as flawless as those of a seasoned veteran. Our boy innocently asked if he hit the target correctly, leaving Mursal speechless since he had claimed it was his first time ever holding a gun. As a former South Korean military veteran blessed with the Magic Marksman title, Dopamine Addict quietly realizes that while this body's first shot was today, his instincts remain as sharp as ever. Mursal walks over to the target board, explaining that anyone can hit a target after learning the basics. The tightly grouped bullet holes in the center bullseye convince him that his incredible marksmanship can only be called a natural gift. He explains that accurate marksmanship is essential for protecting their zone, because soldiers must strike a giant beast's core to bring it down. A massive blue wolf lets out a deafening roar, proving that a monster will not die unless its glowing core is destroyed. Mursal adjusts his glasses with a grin and declares that Master Hayden is indispensable to the upcoming subjugation war. Sweat rolls down his face as he suddenly panics, wondering what on earth he is saying to His Excellency's son. Hayden responds calmly to the news before turning away, leaving Mursal watching him with a tense, anxious expression. He lowers his gaze, quietly reflecting that everything is unfolding exactly as he expected. A faint memory of Luna Moon's face crosses Hayden's mind as he realizes just how much Hayden resembles her. Snow falls over the courtyard beside a blazing fire pit, as whispers spread among the guards about the officer who died during yesterday's meeting. Mursal passes through the snowy courtyard, while the guards quietly whisper that he shot Lieutenant General Bottom, wondering whether he will be severely punished for mutiny. One soldier explains that Lieutenant General Bottom crossed the line with Hayden first, prompting another to admit that it changes everything as Dopamine Addict listens quietly nearby. Another soldier remarks that no one would believe how Hayden reacted during the incident, while Mursal stands silently in the foreground. He recalls that even after watching a man die before his eyes, our boy only worried about getting blood on his clothes before apologizing and claiming he was simply startled. One soldier calls Hayden a complete psychopath, but another argues that might not be true since he plans to share a meal with the child soldiers once every month. The discussion ends with a soldier wondering whether Hayden is simply trying to win over the child soldiers, concluding that he is definitely far from normal either way. Mursal turns to Dopamine Addict with a serious expression, explaining that these are the exact rumors spreading about him throughout the zone. He calls out to Master Hayden as our boy stands silently by the large window. Hayden glances over his shoulder and admits that hearing those rumors out loud makes him sound like a complete psychopath. Mursal points out that complaining about dirty clothes while the officers panicked was certainly bizarre, but Hayden argues that suddenly pulling out a gun and shooting someone was even stranger. His boots creak across the floor as he decides to ask Mursal a question while they are discussing the incident. Hayden brings up the moment Mursal raised his gun and shot the official, asking about what really happened. He looks Mursal straight in the eye and asks whether he fired that shot on purpose. Mursal adjusts his glasses in surprise and claims he has no idea what Hayden is talking about. Our boy remains calm and explains that the answer is actually quite simple. He concludes that Hayden must have wanted to eliminate the officers who dared to insult Luna Moon. Dopamine Addict figures that as the supreme commander of the zone, Hayden could not openly take sides in front of everyone. He realizes that the sudden appearance of Hayden's real son finally gave the commander the perfect excuse to act. Our boy concludes that anyone bold enough to insult the commander's son was destined to face the consequences. He comes to a chilling realization that under Hayden's rule, anyone who insults his son will ultimately pay with their life. His eyes drift to the bloodstained shirt folded on the bed as he suggests that Hayden likely struck a deal with Mursal beforehand, authorizing him to kill anyone who disrespected Hayden. As snow falls outside, Hayden points out that everyone should have been gossiping about the commander's illegitimate son, but Mursal's sudden mutiny completely buried those rumors. Mersault admits the theory makes sense, but reminds him that he also belongs to the pro-Daphne faction, and wonders if Haydam is placing too much trust in him. Haydam replies that as Lunamoon's son, he was always destined to become a thorn in the side of the pro-Daphne faction. He reminds Mersault that he is also His Excellency's son, and recalls the promise Mersault made to him. That promise was simple yet absolute. Haydam would become Hayden's official successor. By becoming the successor, Haydam also vowed to set Lady Daphne free at last. Facing Mersault, our boy explains that what he truly trusts is his unwavering devotion to Lady Daphne. Mersault grows thoughtful and admits he realized during the officers' meeting that Haydam has exceptional political instincts. He changes the subject and asks whether Haydam really hosts a banquet for the child soldiers every month, while our boy quietly notices that Mersault seems a little embarrassed. Haydam confirms that he will be holding one very soon. Mersault asks if he already has a plan, leaving Haydam surprised that Mersault is taking an interest in his ideas before anyone else. Our boy realizes Mersault has started to warm up to him, then reveals that he plans to prepare the banquet himself. Mersault rests a hand beneath his chin and remarks that cooking has always been one of the best ways to win people's hearts, earning silent praise from Haydam for the spot-on observation. Dark silhouettes of the child soldiers reflect their doubts about following someone born into privilege, while Dopamine Addict realizes he needs to earn their respect instead of forcing their loyalty because relationships built on coercion never last. Our boy resolves to prove from this moment onward that he truly stands on their side. He is determined that when the end times arrive, they will follow his orders without hesitation. Mersault waits quietly before prompting our boy to continue explaining his plan. He asks how he can help with the banquet, wondering whether he should assist with planning the menu or working in the kitchen. The mention of hunting catches Mersault completely off guard, prompting him to ask what Haydam means. A confident smirk spreads across our boy's face as he declares that the banquet preparations will begin with a hunt. Mersault and Haydam make their way through the deep snow with rifles in hand, leaving a long trail of footprints across the frozen wilderness. Mersault cannot believe how insane this entire situation has become. He turns around with a startled expression and argues that leaving the safe zone with only a single gun is completely reckless. Frustration gets the better of him as he shouts, asking Master Haydam if he has been listening at all. Our boy glances back over his shoulder and calmly tells Mersault to keep his voice down. They are only going hunting, so there is no need to make such a fuss. Mersault trudges through the snow and insists that Master Haydam cannot afford to get injured. Our boy watches him in mild surprise, wondering if Mersault is actually worried about his safety. He explains that Commander Haydam would personally kill him if anything happened to his son. As Mersault imagines Haydam confronting him in a rage, an awkward silence settles between the two. Snow drifts through the bare branches while Mersault keeps turning the situation over in his mind, unable to shake the feeling that something about it still does not add up. Our boy explains that a meal carries far more sincerity when the cook gathers the ingredients personally, remaining determined to prepare the banquet with food he hunts himself. Mersault lets out a tired sigh and admits that although he agrees with the idea, he still cannot shake his hesitation. His frustration boils over as he points out that if Dopamine Addict has never fired a gun before, then this must also be his first hunt. If an accident happens because of this attempt at sincerity, Mersault argues that he will be the one held responsible. Our boy confidently declares that, as His Excellency's son, a little hunting is nothing for him. Mersault immediately fires back, telling him to stop hiding behind that excuse. He claims he has hunted without a gun before, and jokes that Mersault can hide behind him if he is afraid of monsters. Mersault quickly snaps that he never said he was scared. Our boy comes to a stop in the snow and reflects that hunting alone would be much easier, but he has a specific reason for bringing Mersault along. Mersault notices something in the distance, while our boy concludes that having him here will provide a first-hand witness after he subjugates the monsters. Mersault points to an antlered rabbit resting in the snow and remarks that it is the perfect size for hunting. Our boy calmly says the rabbit is not his target. Confused, Mersault asks what he could possibly be planning to hunt instead. Without hesitation, our boy draws a knife across his own palm, letting blood spill onto the snow. Mersault cries out his name in complete shock. He quietly tells Mersault not to scare the monsters away as blood continues dripping onto the snow. Mersault trails after him in growing panic, unable to take his eyes off the wound. Our boy fixes his gaze on the dark, snow-covered forest ahead and quietly says that something is coming. A heavy hoof slams into the snow, leaving Mersault staring in confusion as he wonders what is approaching. A massive beast with razor-sharp tusks and a glowing blue core embedded in its forehead emerges from the trees. Mersault immediately recognizes it as a hippopig. He hastily raises his rifle and warns Master Haydam that hippopigs rarely come this close to humans, making this one especially dangerous. Our boy calmly tells him to stay composed. He recalls that hippopigs seldom reveal themselves because they prefer hunting small prey like antlered rabbits and avoid fighting anything stronger than themselves. The two stand side by side in the snow as Mersault realizes our boy deliberately used his own blood to lure the beast out. Confused, he asks why the antlered rabbit was not used as bait instead. Our boy explains that the beast has an exceptionally keen sense of smell. If he had shot the rabbit first, the scent of gunpowder would have frightened it away. He tells Mursal to step back before raising his rifle and taking aim, catching him by surprise. Our boy figures that although hippopigs usually avoid humans, there are only two people standing in the open. A glowing blue system window appears, displaying a silver bullet as it announces the activation of Dopamine Addict's Magic Marksman title. The giant hippopig lunges through the air to attack. Our boy reflects that even the most cautious beast cannot resist striking when it smells fresh blood. The glowing gem embedded in the beast's forehead flares brightly as it charges forward. Our boy steadies his rifle and boldly dares the monster to come straight at him. Mursal watches with sweat running down his face, too stunned to say a single word. Our boy stands over the fallen hippopig with his rifle in hand and calmly asks if this much meat will be enough. The young child soldiers stare in stunned silence, gulping as they struggle to believe what they have just witnessed. Freshly grilled pork belly and crisp lettuce cover the wooden table as our boy thanks everyone for accepting his invitation. He modestly adds that the meal is nothing special. Wearing a dark apron and carrying plates of steaming food, our boy smiles warmly and assures everyone there is more than enough pork belly for all of them. He adds that he looks forward to working together with everyone. Laughter fills the air as the young child soldiers gather around the long wooden table beneath the clear sky and enjoy the feast together. Room Corner Hubby grips a pair of grill tongs and bluntly points out that, unlike the rest of them, Dopamine Addict can actually taste food. Our boy stands beside the sizzling pans and remarks that Room Corner Hubby has not changed one bit. He points to the meat he just grilled, prompting Room Corner Hubby to check whether it is ready. Taejong Beyonce suddenly bursts in with a deep bow, catching everyone off guard with his loud greeting. He enthusiastically introduces himself, saying he has heard so much about Room Corner Hubby and asking if he can call him his second big brother. Room Corner Hubby immediately refuses, yelling that Taejong Beyonce is not allowed to call him brother. He then turns to our boy and demands to know why Taejong Beyonce was not forced to enlist as well. Our boy points out that Taejong Beyonce is already a military veteran, while Room Corner Hubby has never enlisted. He then asks whether Room Corner Hubby even knows how to use a firearm. Taejong Beyonce lets out an awkward laugh and assumes they are joking, insisting that Room Corner Hubby must at least know how to hold a gun. Room Corner Hubby responds with complete silence, clearly having no idea. Room Corner Hubby angrily tells Taejong Beyonce to watch his mouth and stop spreading rumors about him being a player. Taejong Beyonce quickly apologizes while our boy quietly watches the exchange. Our boy notes that no one overheard the conversation and tells them to leave the subject there. He suggests they share what they have learned instead and asks Taejong Beyonce to go first, which he readily agrees to. He reveals that he is serving as a servant at Commander Hayden's residence. With a cheerful smile, he explains that the senior staff treat him especially well because of his young age. When asked whether he uncovered anything important, Taejong Beyonce drops his playful attitude and confirms that he has gathered valuable information. He reveals that Lieutenant General Radu is currently having an affair. Our boy turns to Room Corner Hubby and asks whether he managed to gather any information about the upcoming subjugation war. Room Corner Hubby says he heard they might be drafted into the next subjugation war. Our boy recalls that the subjugation war usually begins once most of the snow has melted. He figures there is still some time before the war starts, since the snow was still deep when he went hunting with Furso. He asks if our boy uncovered anything else. He says he did, but insists on bringing up something else first. Our boy holds out a ring hanging from a necklace and tells both Room Corner Hubby and Taejong Beyonce to touch it. Room Corner Hubby takes hold of the cord and wonders if it is just an ordinary ring, while Taejong Beyonce examines it and asks whether it was a gift. Watching them handle the ring, our boy realizes the item has no effect on either of them. He places a hand over his chest and reveals that he recently unlocked the system. Although he still needs to verify it in other zones, he believes most people awaken the system by touching a specific item. Our boy studies their reactions and concludes that only one person in each zone can unlock the system. Room Corner Hubby panics and demands to know what people like him are supposed to do if they have nothing. Our boy calmly tells him to settle down. He explains that unlocking the system only provides a character profile, an inventory, and a public chat interface. A blue system notification announces that Dopamine Addict has entered the public chat room. He considers the chat feature to be the only part of the system with any real value. Our boy studies the interface and notes that there are currently 8 people in the public chat room. He realizes that players must also exist in the other zones. Room Corner Hubby turns to our boy and eagerly asks whether Dopamine Addict might be out there somewhere, wondering where that person could have ended up, as Taejong Beyonce listens nervously. Our boy cannot help wondering why Room Corner Hubby is suddenly so interested in finding him. He explains that everyone has been keeping their identities secret, so he has not learned anything yet. At the same time, he considers revealing his own identity soon, so the others will owe him a favor. Room corner hubby folds his arms and scoffs, insisting that rude jerk would never have told him anyway. Taejong Beyonce gestures excitedly toward our boy and room corner hubby, asking whether there are any other players in the cola zone, while remarking on how enthusiastically everyone is enjoying the meal. Pork belly sizzles in the pan as our boy agrees, saying he believes they are the only players in the cola zone. He pauses for a moment before adding that, while it is only a theory, there is something else worth considering. Our boy gazes into the dark night and suggests that Luna Moon may have been a player after all. Room corner hubby stares at him in shock and asks if Luna Moon could have actually been a player. Our boy admits he is not entirely sure either, but since everyone says he resembles Luna Moon, he believes she was Asian, just like them. He recalls how people previously pointed out that Haydam looked remarkably similar to Luna Moon. He adds that Luna Moon was known as the hero of the Subjugation War, leaving Room Corner Hubby stunned by the title. Room Corner Hubby wonders if that is a title exclusive to players, while Taejong Beyonce agrees that he has never seen a non-player character called the hero of the Subjugation War. He explains that the strongest piece of evidence is that Luna Moon was said to possess a healing ability, just like them. According to the records, she possessed a healing ability as well. Our boy reflects that this world seems to hold a much deeper story than they have uncovered so far. A faint smirk spreads across his face as he asks if everyone is excited for the brutal campaign waiting ahead. Room Corner Hubby calls out Dopamine Addict's creepy smile in frustration, but Taejong Beyonce quickly holds him back and urges his brother to calm down. Our boy silently stares at them, thinking the two of them are far creepier. Our boy reaches into his shirt and says Luna Moon is not the only surprise. Watching him, Taejong Beyonce nervously tries to convince himself that Dopamine Addict is not a psychopath. He pulls out a ring hanging from a necklace cord and reveals that it once belonged to Luna Moon. He reflects that it was nothing special back in the game. A system notification reveals that the title effect, Friend of Luna Moon, has been applied to the target, leaving him deep in thought. He concludes that this world seems to have gained yet another hidden secret. Our boy recalls sitting on his bed when the ring suddenly grew warm, while Commander Hayden was nearby. Once the commander walked away, the ring quickly turned cold again. His gaze drifts toward the closed double doors as he wonders if the ring had been saddened by the commander's departure. He realizes that the Friend of Luna Moon title only affects non-player characters. Our boy studies the sparkling ring and wonders if it means a non-player character's ego is dwelling inside it. He lowers his gaze and wonders who that person could possibly be. The question lingers in his mind as he wonders who could make him feel such an overwhelming sense of longing. From the balcony beneath the setting sun, Room Corner Hubby wonders what will happen if this world is not exactly like the game, just as Dopamine Addict suggested. He looks alarmed and asks if that means all of their strategies are completely useless. Dopamine Addict reassures them that the strategies still work, reminding everyone that players who fail the campaign will die. Room Corner Hubby asks if Luna Moon's settings are the only thing that changed, and our boy admits that possibility would make everything even stranger. Taejong Beyonce then earnestly calls out to his brothers. He points out that if Luna Moon really was a player, someone must have been transported to this world before them, leaving him wondering what became of that person. Room Corner Hubby is left completely overwhelmed by the thought of an NPC who might be a player, the campaign's brutal difficulty, and players running loose. He crosses his arms and shouts that his head is about to explode, asking why they cannot just focus on stopping the apocalypse. Our boy silently dismisses him as a simple-minded idiot. Our boy sits on the bed and explains that he is sharing this information so they know what to expect, declaring that their current goal is to join the Subjugation War. Room Corner Hubby asks if that is why he asked about the war's schedule earlier. He explains that they must take part in the first Subjugation War, pointing out that simply surviving it will earn them a title. He believes Room Corner Hubby can join the war without any issues. When Room Corner Hubby asks if Taejong Beyonce can go instead, Taejong Beyonce eagerly volunteers, but our boy quietly decides to make sure he stays behind. He reasons that if both he and Room Corner Hubby fail to return from the campaign, at least one player must remain behind to deal with the aftermath. A faint smile crosses his face as he resolves that he has no intention of going down without a fight. Room Corner Hubby asks if they could have had this discussion outside, wondering if Dopamine Addict brought them to his room just to show it off. He calmly replies that he did not. A fork is gently placed onto the wooden table with a soft clink. Both of them stare in confusion at the tray of cookies and the neatly arranged forks before them. Our boy pulls out a dining chair and tells them both to sit down, announcing that today's lesson is practicing how to eat, leaving Room Corner Hubby completely baffled. He explains that his experiments showed focusing on the act of eating speeds up recovery, while Room Corner Hubby grips a fork and wonders why they cannot just eat with their hands. He freezes in complete shock, his red eyes wide as he grips the fork. Our boy points to the cut on his hand with a fork and explains that they need a wound to test their recovery speed, prompting Room Corner Hubby to shout in disbelief and ask if he has lost his mind. Room corner hubby covers his mouth in horror, while Taejong Beyonce trembles beside him, both convinced dopamine addict is a complete sociopath. Meanwhile, our boy explains that their perks normally absorb food automatically without the need to chew. He takes a bite of a cookie and explains that something unusual happens when a person consciously focuses on eating. A gentle blue glow surrounds the wound on his hand as he demonstrates that concentrating on eating actively boosts recovery speed. Our boy gazes over the snow-covered buildings beneath the mountain peaks and suggests spending the remaining time before the Subjugation War training their most basic recovery ability. He raises his fork with an ominous smile and tells them to stab him, only for a panicked voice to yell at him to wait. Room corner hubby angrily points at our boy and insists he has already mastered his recovery ability, so he should be excused from this insane training. Our boy asks what he means. Room corner hubby reaches for the tray of pastries and explains that his technique works a little differently from ordinary recovery. He picks up a cookie as glowing magic gathers around his hand, demonstrating that he can absorb food without even putting it into his mouth. Taejong Beyonce watches in amazement, calls his brother incredible, and asks how he came up with such a technique. Room corner hubby proudly begins to explain. He explains that he was always frail, spending most of his days hooked up to an IV drip instead of eating. He says he simply recalled the sensation of receiving an IV drip, allowing him to recreate that process through his absorption technique. He proudly boasts that his method is much more efficient since he can recover just by touching food, even with a broken arm, while Taejong Beyonce listens intently. Our boy calmly remarks that the technique is actually quite good, catching Room corner hubby completely off guard. He suggests that if everyone gets injured, Room corner hubby should recover first before feeding the others. Room corner hubby shudders as an overwhelming sense of dread washes over him, leaving him terrified of what lies ahead. Holding a cookie with a calm smile, our guy declares the matter settled and officially appoints Room corner hubby as the group's dedicated healer. A quiet night settles outside the window as countless stars twinkle across the sky. Our boy looks down at the pastries left on the wooden tray and reflects that today's training produced promising results. Our boy is impressed by Room corner hubby's hidden talent and wonders what kind of training Taejong Beyonce should receive next. Just then, a blue system notification chimes beside him. Several system notifications appear with friend requests from Home Protector, God I Don't Cry It's Cardio, and Dentist, making him realize exactly what they are. He reaches toward the glowing blue screen, recalling that becoming friends unlocks private one-on-one chats. Since Home Protector's request arrived first, he decides to accept it. Home Protector immediately sends a message asking why it took so long to accept, leaving our boy impressed by the instant reply. Using the username Dopamine Addict, he coldly tells Home Protector to get to the point. Home Protector hurriedly insists the convenience store incident was an accident, but our boy firmly demands an answer again. Home Protector asks whether Dopamine Addict is planning to head to the Unicorn Zone later, catching him completely off guard. A system notification appears as Home Protector sends an item trade request, offering 12 cigarettes. Our boy stares at the system screen in disbelief, wondering how an item trade request is even possible. He quickly realizes that players can actually trade items across different zones. After accepting the trade, he checks his inventory and discovers that becoming friends also unlocks trading, with all 12 cigarettes now safely stored inside. Home Protector says he simply wants to ride Dopamine Addict's coattails and asks to come along when he shelterizes the Unicorn Zone, leaving our boy speechless. He reflects that building allies within his own zone is important, but allies in other zones may be even more valuable. He replies that he understands and will think it over. Home Protector excitedly thanks him, insisting he made the right decision. A faint smirk crosses his face as he decides to figure out how to make the most of the item trading feature before going to bed. Our boy stands alone in his dark room when another system chime suddenly draws his attention to the glowing screen. He looks at the screen in surprise, wondering if someone still has more to say. A blue system notification announces a friend request from T-Bast, leaving Dopamine Addict frozen in shock as he recognizes the name.